my impressions of Starfield is really like a 7 out of 10. There is a lot of really good stuff here, but there's some stuff that is lacking. And maybe is scheduled to come later on and is fine. But one of the things that is lacking is, to me, in the very beginning, is controls. When you look at the first on very beginning achievements that you get from Starfield, and the very first one that you actually get in the game is the first time you go to space, for all into the Starfield. This, you can see, only has 73.8% of gamers that have completed this and have actually unlocked it. That is really low for the first achievement to be achieved in a game, in any game, because usually it's the first, first 5 to 10 minutes. Now I get it. In the first part of the game, before you go to the Starfield, you actually do character creation, and character creation can take a while. But the other thing you kind of do is you kind of do your first combat sequence and some other things. But some other things that, like, you can see just how much people just drop off before people even get to level 5. 46.7% of gamers complete that one, and it's like just level 5 is really, really quick. So both of those are very early on in the game, and you can see just how rapid players dropped off. Okay, and that kind of brings you back to how bad of the controls are in the beginning. And I kind of I don't know if I've made a video about this before, but I've definitely brought this up on the live stream. Like, you need about 6 hours to kind of get a real feel for the game. And for a lot of people, that's too long. Like if they don't get a good feel of the game in the first 10, 15 minutes, like, it's not going to feel good. So what I would highly recommend, and I've highly recommended this to a lot of players that get in, change the controls in the key bindings to how you want them to be. You go into your systems, go to your settings, go down to controls and key bindings area. This is where you're going to manage all that kind of stuff. But go into bindings and change the things that you need to change around. Now, there are some warnings that come up if some bindings overlap in other areas and that kind of stuff. So it might take a little while. And this is the area of the game that I think they really screwed up, because that is the initial point of when people play your game. Okay, the controls and the way they did them are just absolutely garbage. The next thing is the cities. The cities are very well done. I like a lot of just the aesthetics. Very, very cool. This is just looking at New Atlantis. And you can see just very cool. They all have their own different vibe. Very new tech, urban-y. Here is New Atlantis. Very cool. Aquila City. Very, old Southwest United States, old Western kind of, neon, very cyberpunk type of feel. So very cool. Different aesthetics that they have throughout the game. So that brings me to planets and moons. Now, planets are a little bit more active, especially the ones that have fauna and flora, but the ones, the worlds that are kind of like basically just moons are kind of barren. So even a lot of planets, they're kind of barren, especially the ones that don't have fauna and flora. They're very much kind of like what you see here. They're just open. And as you just kind of look around, there's some different things to kind of go do. There's some different structures to kind of go see. But there's been some time periods where I didn't have a lot of structures, or I didn't have a lot of those different procedural generated type of things in the world. Okay, I think there was one time period where it was pretty barren, and I only had like 2 of those procedural generation structures or different caves or whatever in my entire kind of like map range, as you use your scanner. So there's definitely some lacking on some of those kind of barren planets, and I get it. It kind of makes it, a little bit more rewarding to explore those planets that do have the fauna and flora, and there are other outposts and things like that. But it is very much one of those things that I would like to see them do more with the barren planets. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really have a great idea there, but it is one that some of those planets are kind of lacking in things to do, and it's something that I would like to see them kind of maybe work on that a little bit. I don't know, maybe have like some different comets or asteroids impacting, the surface area, and that becomes possibly a new point of interest that you can go explore and check that out and stuff like that. Anyways, I think that would be pretty neat, but there's a lot that they could do, but I think they just need to add in some of those kinds of things with the different planets, or not even planets, but just the different kind of barren worlds and procedural generations. And then even on the planets that do have fauna and flora, it's almost like it's overdone, right? I mean, they're just the different fauna around and even flora, they're just so, but now the flora I can understand, but the fauna is just so lifelike, especially when you get into those. So you can see one animal dead here, and it's like there just is always one dominant life form, and everything else is just just a prey, and it like everything else just gets killed by the one dominant life form that's around. And that's where I don't know. It just seems a little bit overdone, in my opinion, with some of the fauna and some of the flora, and so I don't know. Some of the fauna and some of the flora, a lot of it is kind of repetitive, even though the name might not be repetitive. It seems like a lot of it is kind of repetitive in appearance. But when you come across some stuff that it is very much that unique, and they provide some pretty good benefits with the different kind of resources that they have, whether it's fauna or flora, that is really cool. That is pretty cool. Another thing that is kind of an issue, not really an issue, but it's definitely something that takes away from the like feeling of exploring in this game, is when you come across procedural generated type of structures in this on different worlds, and they are the same. That is kind of something that feels like you're not exploring anymore, because you've literally gone through the same structure before, right? It's feel absolutely fantastic in this game, no matter which weapon you kind of use. So they actually have pretty good feel of kick. They have their own individual feel as well, but they just feel fantastic in the game. That is something that a lot of games don't quite get right, and something that is very appreciative. Really, in my opinion, on Starfield. So it's like the weapons don't feel bad, and that's a great thing, because when you have bad weapon play, it's one that's can take a little bit of time to kind of fix if they need to fix. Some games, when they don't have weapons that feel all that great, they don't really ever fix it. I don't know why that is, but it is one that weapons do just feel that good in the game, and they have a great variety of weapons that feel really good. So yeah, just very, very impressed with the options that they have in the game, as well as just how they made weapons feel in the game. Now, one thing I think it's a little bit more of a letdown, in my opinion, in Starfield is probably just Outposts and how much you are required to use Outposts. Like, because you're not really required to use them. This is just an Outpost I have that kind of just gathers resources. Not really a big deal. Got some different things. Solar panels. I've messed around a lot with resources. Kind of most of my skill points have gone into Outpost. But yeah, it's not. They're not super required. And was kind of shocked, and that would be one of the critiques I would have about Starfield, is there's not as much interlinking right? There's not as much interlinking between a lot of the different, I guess, systems in the game, like weapons, outposts. But yeah, outposts, there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of cool things you can do with them. They're just like a lot of other things in the game. They don't require you to use outposts. And you know what? It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just, it's just not a requirement. You don't have to do that. So anyways, outposts are pretty cool. There's a lot of cool things you can do. You can extract a lot of resources. You can set up fabrications. You can obviously generate your own power for your outpost storage. You can build up vast amounts of different resources that you are extracting and store them. So yeah, a lot of really cool things you can, and also kind of like make your own like living quarters and stuff like that with different halves that they have, and decorate your own halves and stuff. You can put in some of your own different workbenches and whatnot, and then you can decorate, put up your own weapon racks, posters, just different decorative pieces and things like that. Make a little game room or make a little bedroom with your dead girlfriend there next to the bed. It's not creepy, but yeah, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with Outposts. You can definitely make them your home, home feel, home vibe, and stuff like that. You make your own main bases and whatnot. So really cool. A lot of things you can do with Outposts, but just you don't have to build into Outposts really at all. Now, one thing that is really cool in Starfield is building ships. Building ships is a very cool part of Starfield, and one that, I'm pretty honest, I was very impressed with how well it is. There are some issues with some flexibility. The making ships, like you can't really finish making a ship unless your flight check completely checks out. Like you can't have any warnings or anything like that. So it is one of those things that you definitely want to be careful when you start making a ship, because you don't want to get caught modifying a ship, and you kind of need to go and you can't save by completing your ship. Anyways, the spaceship building is pretty cool. This is one ship I have. I basically kind of call it the brick, and yeah, it is a pretty neat to kind of get in there and customize your ships. Here's some of the different ships I have. And here is the micro machine I did build, and I'm going to actually go through and modify this sucker to make a version 2 of this micro machine. It's kind of fun to kind of mess around and see what you can kind of come up with when you actually get in here and build out your different ships. One area of the game I don't really care for is ship flying, ship combat. I just don't like the way it feels, and that's just my opinion. What's one thing that's really cool in Starfield is actually the ability to take over ships. I'm not going to demonstrate that here. So yeah, I just don't care for the controls and the feel of ships in Starfield. It's just, I don't know. I think a lot of other games do it so much better than how Starfield has done it for throttle, maneuvering, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's you get the job done. That's kind of what I was looking for when the game before the game was launched, and it just is what it is. So I just don't like it, and I'm sure there's other people that probably do like it. I just kind of don't, and that's kind of the thing. Is like if you've played other games, other space flight games, then the controls on this game are a little bit weird. Things just feel a little bit weird. So that's just kind of how I feel about spaceships. But the building of spaceships, the customization of spaceships, very, very impressive. Now, one thing that is done pretty good in Starfield is the companions. The companions which are part of the main story. You can talk with them. They'll give you some different things, kind of tell you and whatnot. But for the most part, they kind of stick to their things. One of the major issues that I've had, kind of since day one, is how much they talk on your ships, and or even when they're around, they will talk over game dialogue, and that is not exactly the funnest of experiences. But it is one of those things that really kind of stinks when you are trying to hear different parts of the game, and you're trying to hear some of the story, even not even the main story, just some side quests or whatnot, and you got characters talking. They talk all the time, especially when you first board your ship. They will talk a lot, a lot, and so it's one of those things that kind of stinks. The cool thing is they kind of do come along with you, though, so it is kind of cool. Now, as far as different quest missions, factions, main story, some of the best content in the game, honestly, is outside the main story. A lot of the faction quests were fantastic. These were fantastic, very well done. The rewards were worth doing them. Very good. Great stories too. A lot of the different miscellaneous quests, especially some of the ones that I've done, I would say a lot of them have actually been pretty neat, been pretty cool to kind of see. The power from beyond, that's how you get your powers in the game. I'm going to hit on that here in just a second, but it's okay. It's okay, but a lot of the other quests for a lot of the different different branches of story in the game are actually pretty cool. Actually pretty cool. And then the missions, these are all the missions that you can kind of get from different mission boards and stuff like that you can get at different bars or whatnot. And there's a lot of different things like transport, go kill a pirate or a ship or just a person. So yeah, a lot of cool things like that that you can do. Activities, if you don't know, I'll even just let you know, but these are kind of like pushing points to get you to go into an area where it will start basically a mission or a miscellaneous type of quest kind of thing. So there's that. Now, the main mission. One of the things that I was wanting to know getting into the main mission was really where did the artifacts, where did the temples come from? We knew the artifact and temples were going to be in the game before the game was launched. And one of the things that I wanted to know was, well, where did they come from? And that actually does not get answered. So in the live chat, some people were kind of thinking, yeah, probably be a DLC coming down the line. Yeah, fair enough. And probably seems like it would be, but it seems like that's a big missing part to really something that you would want to know, like where did these come? We know what you can do with them. The temples, that's where you get your powers, and the artifacts. So that's how the NG plus mechanic works. So there's that. Now, as far as kind of how all that works together, those two parts work together with the temples and the artifact. So there's roughly 25-ish temples in the game, I believe. And that is where our 25 powers, right? So you got 6 here in this first ring. Looks like 8 here on the second ring. You got 5 on that outer ring. So 14, 24, 24-ish. So 24, powers. So there's 24 temples you need to go get every multiverse or every NG plus gameplay through. Okay. And this is where I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know who designed this. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, did they play through how many times you would actually have to do this? Because just to get all your powers, that would be 24 temples. That's 24 times you got to go fly around, get these little glowing orbs, and then kind of direct yourself through these rings and inside the temple. And that's where, you get your powers, but then you can also level up your powers, right? You can level them up all the way to level 10. And when you do that in an NG Plus, you can do 1 power per NG Plus, and depending on the NG Plus, you can get all 24 of your powers. So you can level up all 24 of your powers. So if you do all 24 of your powers, you can do it, once per NG Plus, level up 10 times. You'd have to do 10 NG Pluses to get all your powers maxed out. Well, who the heck would want to do that? Let's see, 24 powers times 10 levels, 240 times. Okay, and here's the thing, and here's the really crappy part. Okay, the part of the game that you cannot change with NG Plus is, well, your character, your background, and your traits. My background is Beast Hunter, and my traits are Hero Worship, Wanted, and Terra Firma. And guess what? You can't change those. Now, you can get rid of traits, but you cannot get rid of your background. So if you want to change your background and have a different playthrough, you have to completely restart. So if you max out all your powers, you have to completely redo your character if you want to change your background. You have to start from scratch. And that, I don't know what they were thinking about wanting to do the temples 240 times. And then that's not even if you want to change your background. Like if you want to change your background, then you're going to have to do it, obviously more times if you want to. And that's if you want the powers, right? I'm not a big power guy myself, but I'm going to get them, just because, I don't know, later on down the line, I might want them. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know really what they were thinking there with the whole story thing, with powers, NG Plus, the mechanic, and yeah, that's, 240 times. Like I did the temples twice, 2 or 3 times, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it's very repetitive after about 2 or 3 times. And then to realize when people were kind of figuring it out that, oh, there's 24 of these powers, and then, oh, you level up these powers through multiple NG pluses. It makes it very, I'll just say, not fun at that point in time. Okay, the powers might be fun. You might have some fun with the powers, but the power grind is not fun. And there's even been mods that have come out about just getting rid of the temples altogether. So I don't really know how that mod fully works. Like if you just go to the temple, you go through the door and you get the power without having to do the mechanic, go flying around or whatever. But yeah, that is horrible. Horrible design, horrible implementation, horrible thought process behind that whole thing. So in kind of wrapping up, really Starfield it has a lot of great pieces. A lot of fantastic pieces. But one of the big issues I kind of have with Starfield is there's not a lot of connection between those pieces. And it kind of feels like it's a body without ligaments and without tendons. It feels like a game without ligaments and without tendons. Like the weapon system, crafting, it's all fantastic. It is really good. Outposts are really good, really fantastic. Shipbuilding and customizing is really fantastic. I'm not super big on spaceship flying myself, at least on Starfield, but the boarding and taking over of other ships, that is really cool. That is a really cool mechanic that they put into Starfield. Very cool that they did that. But a lot of those different systems like that are not interconnected very well. And that's where they probably should have done a little bit better job of, maybe making you go build into Outposts a little bit more than just say, hey, go build an outpost. Like there's an initial early quest from Vasco that says, hey, go build an outpost. But you don't really ever have to build an outpost. And so that's just kind of where I'm like, you know, it seems like there should be some better things. It's like same thing with crafting. Like you don't ever really have to craft anything. And that's kind of where I feel like there should be some requirements to kind of craft some things a little bit more. But that's kind of how my take on it. It's great muscles, great bones, great nervous system, a lot of great brain in the game. Yes, there are some bugs. They're not, I haven't really heard of anybody say like anything's game breaking. I have some bugs that have blocked quests, but nothing around the main story. Nothing around the main story. So that's just kind of where I'm at with it. I just feel like it's a great game, but not a lot of great moving interaction between a lot of the different systems in the game. So hopefully it was helpful. I do like the game. It's only going to get better. They just got to make a little bit better interconnection between a lot of the different structures and mechanics in the game. And I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a great game to play for the long term. We'll see where they take it. I do think that they could add some things, and I'm going to go into that in some other videos. But the game is pretty fantastic. So give it a big old fat 7 out of 10. Alrighty, take care.